All right. I have not streamed at my own place for a bit of time. So we're going to finally do that. And let me see if it is all working. But I have some cool coffees to taste today, and I'll wait for people to roll into the chat. A second. Anyway, we hope the camera does not overheat. Okay, cool. So let me see. I don't have any of the stream overlay stuff on right now. I just am too lazy to set that up at this moment. But yeah, let's see. This is working. Second. I haven't streamed from this Mac in a little bit, so it might be a little laggy. But anyway, yeah, what we're going to do today is we're going to go and taste some hopefully interesting coffees. I kind of want to talk a bit. Well, I guess this thing will show up in a VOD later on, but I kind of want to just spend a bit of time today and talk about why I've been really interested in, I would, quote unquote, call these emerging origins or emerging regions of coffee. So, like, why do I like Indonesian coffees, or why do I like Indian coffees? Why do I like Taiwanese and Chinese coffees and all of that? And I think it's just been a very fascinating kind of journey for me, more so as a coffee enthusiast. I think for me, it's that at least in it seems like the last few years, we've started to really see a big increase in terms of coffee quality from these regions. So like, if you think about, well, this is just kind of how I think about it, is when I was, I mean, maybe it's because I'm too young, but it's like, I was not around when Ethiopians and Colombians and Brazils and all of that got quote unquote good, right? And what's been interesting to me, or, like, I guess some of the coffees like out of Colombia and all of that is definitely getting better because of thermal shock processing and, all the crazy stuff that Bermudez does and those types of things. But it's like a lot of these coffees, a lot of that exponential growth in terms of quality, already seems to have already happened. So like 10 years ago, or a lot of this was like 5 or 10 years ago. And these are things that I just never was able to experience. And what's been interesting with coffees from India, Indonesia, Taiwan, Philippines, and all of that is in a 1 to 3 year span, at least now, that's when that quality increase seems to be happening. So it's been really fun for me to taste, for example, Indian coffee or Taiwan coffee last year and compare it to this year and say, wow, this has gotten significantly better. And that has been a lot of fun to me, at least as an enthusiast, because it's like, wow, this is something that I can appreciate, and I can really appreciate all the work that these producers are doing, and all of this quality is increasing every single year. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel on interesting coffees. I think these are very, very unique coffees, and I will say that a lot of these coffees have just gotten better over time, and you can taste it year and year, and you can see it's like, wow, things, there's like in Indian coffee that has acidity, that has florality. And, I think it's a kind of a delicate discussion of like, is that actually what producers should be focusing on? But for me, I'm like, it is just really amazing to have coffees that have expressiveness out of these regions, like given the quote unquote soil and terroir and all of that. And I actually think I quite like that a lot of these producers are tapping into advanced processing. For example, like this coffee here, which I think we'll brew this, and I'll talk to you guys about these because we just did a cool little release on Asia Roasting Project literally today. And some of you guys have ordered, is it's been interesting to basically look at how these producers tap into processing. So a kind of a story that I have is 2 years ago, I had a Yunnan, like, I will say that a lot of coffee coming out of China is a hit or miss at times, but like I had an anaerobic natural Yunnan, and it was just like all anaerobic processing. It's like anaerobic and then into like dirt, into like Catamar taste. Now, at least with something like the P4 Catamar and some of these other coffees, it's like there's processing, but it is quite now complex. It's like, wow, they've like made the coffee not only taste like processing. So that's been pretty fun. Now, yeah, like I've just been really excited about this. I've linked these two in the coffees I'm going to be brewing in the description. But this was one that was pretty fun. So this is the Moulay Mané Excelsa, which is an Indian coffee. And it is an anaerobic, natural, yeast fermented coffee. So that is, a lot of words, and that's exactly what you see coming out of like, your Colombias and all of that. And I'm just going to start brewing some. And basically it's like just been really fun for me to see like low elevation coffees, right? Like 1,000 meter coffee, 1,000 to 1,500 meter level coffee have like so much expressiveness. And that's just something that I've been quite into. So, I'm going to brew these coffees, and then I'll see if anybody wants to hang out in the chat. It's a chill night today. We're just going to brew some coffees and talk about stuff. But yeah, this was a really fun collaboration with Tanya Rao of Kaveri. And geez, it's like actually crazy that we have a coffee from India have this level of like fruitiness. I even remember like 2 years ago tasting some coffees from like Araku, even roasted by Hatch, and all of these, it was like, kind of what you expected, right? Which is like, oh, a lot of these Indian coffees taste like dirt, or a lot of these like coffees taste like really, really, really covered up by processing. Now we're getting coffees like this where it's like it is earthiness, it's not dirt, it is fruity because of the processing. Are these the cleanest coffees in the world? Not really, in my opinion. But they're fun, they're interesting, and I think it really shows me like a ton of potential for the future. But yeah, this was the really light profile roast. So for those of you guys who picked this coffee up, it's linked below. Pretty crazy in terms of lightness. But I guess we'll do a brew of it, and I'm just gonna brew everything on the V60, and I want to show you guys something very tragic. This is the Pepe V60. Let me show you guys something. Absolute tragedy, if you can see that. There is a crack now. Terrible day. It is a terrible day to to be brewing coffee. But yeah, it's quite unfortunate. We've used the Pepe V60 too much, and we've now cracked it. I cry every time, man. But yeah, it's tragic, man. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna brew like 12 grams. It's like 6. I need to get food. I shouldn't be live streaming. But yeah, this is an Omega Light Indian coffee. Roasted on the Loring by Tanya. She's never. I kind of convinced her to roast very, very light for this, but it might be hard to see on the camera here. But it is Very, very light. It is like surprisingly light. And this coffee is finally starting to open up now. It's been like 2 weeks since she roasted it. Finally starting to open up. Processing, man. It's the future. It's the future of all coffee. Dank processing. I think it cracked from normal usage. Like this doesn't feel like a crack. Well, okay, to be fair, I have dropped this. But it does seem like a crack from, I don't know. I don't think I have any cracks on my white V60 here. But I have this other clear V60, like kind of the clearer V60s can exhibit cracking, especially as they heat up and cool down. Very, very tragic is what I will say. The thing is the glass Pepe switch is very scary because if you drop that is dead. That is going to be destroyed. But yeah, this is, I think, the last week to order this coffee. If you want to pick up the this collab coffee between us, this is going to be the last week to pick it up. And it has just been a very impressive coffee to me. Very fruit forward, and I'm quite excited to see what people think about it. Would glass be a better material? Probably. I mean, so like, I don't like the glass or ceramic. Yeah, or that, or you have it land on the rubber part. So I don't personally like the glass and glass and ceramic V60 because of the thermal properties. I think it makes a really nice round and sweet cup, but I lose some of that flavor definition that I like that you can get out of plastic. Now, obviously, there's this whole conversation on like BPA and microplastics and all of that. That is kind of the trade-off that, you need to make is like, if you want that max clarity, you probably are going to die earlier, maybe. But I have found the glass, at least for the switch, if you do a lot of brews with it, eventually the temperature stabilizes. But it really depends on what you're aiming for. I do think there is justification for owning all of them because they all have, even the metal V60, like they all have different thermal properties, and that will all kind of influence the results in the cup. But yeah, this is a hella light coffee, which is very surprising. And you do smell some of that Indian terroir. But it's kind of like enveloped in a lot of that anaerobic yeast processing. And I've actually found that I can push some of these coffees decently hard, although I would brew it in a way, well, it depends on what you're aiming for, but I like brewing it in a way where it maximizes this acidity up front. So, if you don't particularly like, say, the taste of Indian terroir or Taiwan terroir or Yunnan, right? You kind of get less of that. But yeah, wooden V60. I high key, dude. The wooden V60. I want a wooden V60. I want a wooden April. I guess like all the different woods have different thermal properties. But yeah, for a lot of these coffees, I am brewing now at around like 94 to 96 Celsius. Even though they are quite light, I don't think it's like, it seems like if you do run into sometimes potential astringency or potential like mutedness that you can get with really hot temperatures, it makes these coffees from these regions seemingly taste worse. So I'd rather have like a rounder cup than a maximum high clarity brew. And I don't have the overhead camera here today, unfortunately, but this coffee is still hella light, given, and it's still off-gassing, because that's how light it is. So if you, I mean, wow. It smells like candy. So if you did get this coffee, I would recommend you rest it for at least 2.5 weeks, like minimum 2 to 3 weeks before you actually brew it. And I'm kind of just doing a double bloom right now to make it drinkable this early. But yeah, I mean, if you told me this was an Indian coffee 2 or 3 years ago, I just literally would not believe you. To have like florality, like have, I guess, perfume effect that you get out of anaerobic naturals, pretty crazy. Out of an Indian coffee too. Now I have the Brewista kettle here because in the event I do brew aeropress, I will show you guys the advanced technology. And I'm trying to also keep the contact time of, because like basically a lot of these coffees, if you're very used to the Western style of coffee, or you're used to like, you know, things finishing super floral or super sweet, what I'm finding is like these coffees from Indonesia, India, Taiwan, China, like, you know, a lot of the coffees are all somehow based around like Robusta, or they have high bitterness. So what ends up happening is if you do over extract them, it is like double pain, where it's like you get pain from bitters because of the actual green coffee itself, and then pain from the terroir, right? So I like to brew it in a way where I'm finding like you don't need to actually put that much effort into extracting the delicacies out of these coffees, because also most of these coffees aren't as complex as like a wash pan magesha. So you want to basically take that processing and elevate it somehow in your brewing methodology. So I'm finding faster brews to maximize like flow and all of that seem to be the best. But this was basically a 2-minute long brew, 12 to 200. I did 2 longer blooms that did boost up the extraction, and I do like this the high agitation stuff that you guys are very used to seeing me do. I'm gonna bring a trash can here. All right, let's give this a taste. So, I've been brewing this coffee across the last few weeks, and definitely it started to open up this week, so it's about 2 weeks off. Yeah, that's crazy. You get like perfume effect. Smells amazing for, and it's like, I was going to say it smells amazing for an Indian coffee, but it's like, it smells amazing for just coffee. I only brew my coffee with the B75 now. I like the B75 a lot. I think I'll do a stream on this, but I have another Chinese dripper that is very big technology, Chinese dripper, that lets you, change the bases. And the nice thing about this company is they actually tell you about if you're brewing a certain type of coffee, use this type of base, use this type of pattern, because all of that influences the flow rate. Probably should spit this out too. Let me get a spit cup. Because I got 2 more coffees to brew tonight. I also have the aviary that I got in, which I should brew as well. But I don't know if I'll brew it today. I need to kind of get back into the swing of streaming at home because I just have like all these other videos, and I have some good videos coming out soon. It's crazy to have like tropical acidity, tropical fruit, like yellow fruit acidity. There's a lot of ginger. I'm finding a lot of processed Indian coffees, at least of the ones that I've tasted with Tanya, have kind of like a ginger, like a spice to it. And I think it's really unique, and I think that's kind of pretty fun with a lot of the Indian coffees now, is like, you know, the higher end stuff does seem to have like a lot of dynamics, but that's the type of thing, is like, you know, if you're not used to drinking coffee that has spice to it, this is going to be really different. It might be weird, it might be a big turnoff, but I think it's good to keep an open mind with these emerging origins and, you know, this new advanced processing that a lot of these producers are tapping into, and really see it's like, hey, how does coffee quality how does like coffee quality increase because of this? Oh, I can link this also in the description if anybody, or like in the chat if anybody wants to pick this up. There is a 10% discount if you use Brian10. But I know a bunch of you guys ordered, so I don't know how much of this coffee she has left. But yeah, it's like an expressive Indian coffee. It's like weird. Now I will nitpick this. I'm gonna nitpick this now and say that at the very end you get some of that earthiness, you know, woodiness, and you know, the bitterness that you can potentially find out of a lot of Indian coffees. But it's that 80% up front of what you're experiencing is like processing, dynamics, acidity, and it does finish sweet, but if you look for it, and if you've never tasted coffee like this, you're going to be like, oh, that's what Indian coffee tastes like, right? That's what like the terroir tastes like. And that's like, you know, is that bad, right? Is that something that we should dislike? I'm not too sure. I know a lot of people in India like this type of flavor profile. So it's like, should we, you know, write that profile off? And it's like, I don't think so, right? I don't necessarily think so. But, you know, this is the way this coffee's processed and roasted, I definitely think it's kind of in the middle. It's like, you can have people who are used to like crazy, expressive, light roast and still enjoy it. And people who are used to like the more earthy properties that Indian coffees have and still enjoy it. So it is pretty fun. So yeah, if anybody who's watching this picked this coffee up, I think you're gonna be in for a surprise. I'm still quite surprised by what this coffee tastes like. I'm out of beans at the moment, and also 6 of the stream will do me good. Yeah, you know, thanks for tuning in. We're just having a chill night, tasting some interesting coffees. I will say though, as somebody who personally really likes clean coffees, this is, you know, not the cleanest coffee in the world. I will say it's clean processing, given that it's a 900 meter above sea level coffee. It's pretty good. But is it the cleanest coffee in the world? Absolutely not. And I think that is going to be a challenge. You know, if you're a true enlightened enthusiast, because every true enlightened coffee enthusiast ends up in the washed Panamanian geisha world, right? This is not going to be as clean as those coffees, but it is fun. So, all right. I want to move over to these ones because this is like the most impressive to me. That like I've been so impressed by these coffees. Of course, I'm trying to sell you coffee. But it's like I already saw some of you guys bought this. I'm so surprised. There are only like 33 bags of this left, but I had 35 bags of this. So this is a SL34 from Taiwan. So we're gonna taste some Taiwanese coffee. Very, very rare coffee. The yields for this are really, really tiny. And I have a SL34 honey process that I'm going to taste today, roasted. This is from Taiwan, roasted by our friend Mojo. And then I also have a natural geisha. So two very interesting Taiwan coffees, and I'm going to go and taste them. I am offering a recreated version with the exact same beans of this SL34. So if you guys, whoever is watching this, wants to actually taste this coffee, you can pick it up. It is very expensive, okay? These coffees are very, very expensive. Like the green coffee is insanely expensive. So I think it's just like, that's the reality. It's like 50 something bucks for 100 grams of it roasted. It's like, generally speaking, that's how much these coffees cost, which is, quite unfortunate. But it is because there are like tiny yields in Taiwan, and also getting it here is so damn expensive. I had to have my business partner go to the farm and buy this type of stuff, fly it back here, and I just wanted to share this coffee with you all. But I literally only have like 30. Well, I only have like 30 something bags. Jeez. But we only have like 5 kilograms of each of these coffees, and it's only going to make a little. So if you want to pick it up, now is your chance. Okay. Let me see. As an espresso enthusiast, part of the fun is tasting the different single origin notes. Totally agree. I think being able to taste flavor notes in coffee is such a rewarding experience, because it's like, oh my god, I'm developing my palate for these flavors. And then second of all, it is it's like learning how a flavor note is represented in the context of a coffee is really, really fun as well. It's like, it's a skill. Like tasting is a skill, and learning how to taste coffee is another crazy skill. Can't afford coffee this week, sadly, since I pre-ordered the Argos last week. Damn, dude. One day I'll buy an Argos. I don't know. I just I have too much stuff. I don't need more espresso machines. But yeah, this has been a really impressive coffee. It is one of the cleanest Taiwan coffees I've tasted, although I don't get the chance of tasting that many Taiwanese coffees, so that's also why I'm like, it might be recency bias or whatever, but I have tasted a fair bit of Taiwan coffee that does exhibit the same thing that like a lot of Indian and Indonesian and all these coffees experience, which is like, at the very end, you get a lot of that woodiness. I will say, though, that the presence of earthiness in Indian coffee is quite different than Indonesian coffee, and it is also quite different than Taiwanese coffee. So if I let me quickly tell you guys about what I think about that. Taiwanese coffee has like a much more tea leaf-like effect. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. And Indonesian coffees kind of have like a slight spice to it, and then Indian coffees seem to have like super muddy, like earthiness effects to it, but it's like heavier. It's much heavier. So it's been interesting to like taste, what are these producers doing and how good these coffees are getting, given with what they have. I've had some coffee from Mexico that had some spice notes. Yeah, so there are now chili co-ferment coffees from Mexico. I don't know if I can find it right now, but like there are some like really goofy coffees coming out of Mexico. But this is an SL34 that to me, it's like you have red fruits in it. It has a lot of caramel sweetness to it. And yes, see, it makes complete sense. Yeah, so a lot of the Taiwan coffees, even Yunnans, will have those Katamars. They will have some of that tea effect to it, like that. In the end, there's like that earthiness and roughness and tea like effect. Do I have a tier list for my favorite coffees and roasters? I don't, because I don't want to burn any bridges yet. But this is such a unique coffee, and really happy to be working with Mojo here to release a coffee like this. But as you can see, it's a honey processed coffee. I will say, like, what's been, maybe this is like my experience with this, but look at how big these beans are. Or like they're really puffy. I think this is an Ethiopia. Yeah, this is like a Say Ethiopian. So like here is a Say Ethiopian. And here are these Taiwan SL34 beans. Look how much bigger these are. I also have Gesha somewhere. I have the Peru Gesha somewhere here. This was such a great coffee. The Mario Sorza from Say. It's Peru Gesha. You know, this is Gesha, but grown in Peru. Oh, I also do have like Panama Gesha somewhere here. But, oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong beans. And you can see like, these beans are like so puffy. They're like big, you know, like rounder. So it's quite interesting to see, you know, open up coffee from different regions, or even like this Kaveri coffee where it's like the beans seem to be rounder, the green coffee. So it's fun. I like that a lot. Anybody in the chat try a recent release of Letty Bermudez Manhattan Archetype or Black and White? Yes, Letty, I have tried. I've tried a recent batch of it, and it's tasting pretty good. I think they have the Typhoon and all of that very well dialed in. I've also been sipping a lot on this El Paraiso decaf. So this one, you know, the new packaging looks like a Hallmark card or a Target aisle card. I have not actually had a recent batch of Diego from Archetype, although I still have the Diego Pink Bourbon, or the process, the Lucy Fernandez Pink Bourbon well, yeah, I guess he did enter in World Barista. That Diego processed coffee, and it was pretty crazy. It's still tasting great. Even, I don't know how many of you guys tuned into that stream, but it's still tasting amazing. I'm gonna brew this one. I already brewed this one earlier today. It's so much better than what you would expect, right? Because like we all have this preconceived notion that these emerging origins are like, you know, worse. But it makes, I guess, tasting these even better because you're like, whoa, that exceeded my expectations. So that's why I'm super happy to be featuring this SL34. Yeah, I mean, that smells great. There's actually like florality in this. Scary. Like, oh, that's not allowed. There's actually florality in these like off like mainstream origin coffees. But yeah, this is SL34. I can't get it. Okay, hold on. I'm catching up. I can't get Letty dialed in from any of these roasters. I'm wondering if the crop is just bad. Well, like, what are you tasting? Like, what is dialed in for you? Like, right? It's like maybe you just don't like how Letty tastes, or are you tasting something like old crop, or what are you tasting, right? Is it spicy like spicy food then burn your mouth, or more like spices? I would say it's kind of like, if you've ever had like cinnamon spice or like a Big Red, like that type of gum, that spiciness is what I sometimes get in Indonesian coffees. It's like that kind of like, not like hot spice, but like towards peppery or like cinnamon type of spiciness that kind of like punches out. But yeah, this is like amazing that this coffee, so this SL34 smells like this. Like I just am surprised. You used to be definitely like the lower quality coffees. You can definitely tell it's like, you know, you can smell it. You can smell like, oh, this smells like tea and wood. A lot of the Taiwan coffees 2 years ago smelled like that to me. It's like woody tea or like tea leaves or like dried tea leaves is a very specific flavor note that I have in my mind with a lot of Taiwan coffees. Yeah, I don't know. Like Luke, there are a million geishas. Like you could spend $90 and buy a pound of King Harv's Panama geisha, or you could spend $90 and buy Esmeralda from a different roaster, and you might have very different experiences. Yeah, El Preso decaf's great. I like it. I think it's great. But yeah, let me brew this SL34. I'm brewing, again, 92 to 94 Celsius. Lower temperatures, I think, more forgiving. And this is roasted under the under Mojo's roast profile, which is super balanced, super sweet, very like pillowy effect, very integrated. It's that Asian roasting style, man. Jeez, yeah. Pretty clean aromatics. So the kind of difference is I do think for certain regions, they're like washed coffees or they're like cleaner processed coffees are definitely stronger. Like for example, I don't actually like most of the good Indonesian coffees I've tasted because I bought all these coffees from Ordinary. If you guys saw that stream, the all the really great Indonesian coffees I've tasted are all like omega processed. Like like you're looking at it and you're like, oh my god, this is a 240 hour anaerobic processed coffee. And that's like what makes it taste good is like they've really tapped into the processing. So you're tasting less of the actual terroir, right? But I think Taiwan and India, some Indians, like the cleaner, like the wash coffees or less touched processed coffees are really strong. But yeah, like this one here. This is like a regular natural, so I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to touch that. But it's like the other 240 hour Indonesians are like really good. It's like, okay, that's really how you're using processing to elevate coffee quality. I did a wild tasting Sunday comparing 8 geishas and 2 sidras, mostly washed. The ones from Honduras are really nice. Yeah, like, I think sidras are great. Sidras, like, I don't know. I think, everybody last year was like, oh, on the pink Bourbon hype, and I think now Sidra is, like, gonna be the one. But, yeah, wow, like, this coffee smells great. So I'm gonna taste this real quick, and then I'm actually really excited for this natural geisha. But yeah. I don't know who roasted that. Oh wait, no, Manhattan. Yeah, I mean the decaf. If it has a weird aftertaste, what you are most likely tasting is actual decaf. Like that is that's the type of thing is like processing can only cover up so much in some of those decafs. If you're tasting kind of like a weirdness, like I think it's kind of like chocolate or like a little like maybe not like stale chocolate chip cookies, but it kind of reminds me of like that, like a browner flavor profile. That's the decaf that you're tasting. But yeah, this is a Taiwan coffee that it's like got a lot of sweetness in the smell, in the aromatics. It's like a caramel sweetness, honey sweetness, some amount of florality in the aromatics, which is like, unheard of in a lot of these, and this is just like a honey processed coffee, which is, it's like, it's not like anaerobic, natural, yeast, million different words. This is just a normal honey processed coffee from Taiwan. So pretty like crazy that they're able to accomplish at least this type of aromatics just from, normal processing. A lot of those Sumatrans also have a spice to it. So there is that Starbucks Sumatran dark roast that has like spice, and that is a flavor profile that is just very, very ingrained in my mind. It's like that is what that tastes like. But let me give this SL34 a taste. Who roasted that Letty? Because if it's a Manhattan filter roast, you probably should wait a lot more weeks than 3 weeks. So this is, this is really interesting. So a lot of red fruit in here, really long linger that is nice and sweet. I would classify this as caramel. I'm just gonna try shilling this coffee to you all. It's hella expensive. I know it's hella expensive, but if you guys buy it, it'll make me very happy. But we're roasting it next week. It's so limited, and if I want to get this coffee out there, it's got to be to the homies who spend their time on the live streams. At the end, this is where the Taiwan terroir comes in, which is like dried tea leaves, like or brewed tea leaves. Like after you brew tea, you have those leftover tea leaves, or like you go to a Chinese restaurant and you have the tea in the teapot that's been sitting there. There's like some of that type of specific like astringency or specific bitterness that you get from those tea leaves, and that is what that's pretty good, right? Like in my opinion, that's a lot more. It's less offensive than like some of the crazy bitters that you can get out of like a Vietnamese coffee, some of the Indian coffees, like hardcore Robusta, which is like super crazy bitter. So I think like that's the kind of uniqueness if I were to try to classify like the Taiwan coffee versus like how heavy or like you're getting punched with like bitters in some of those Robustas, and La Barrica's is like bitters plus dirt thrown in your face, which is not the most fun thing in the world. But yeah, I think like this is really amazing for what it is. If you're getting graininess, it's probably like a bit of roast, but also that's the thermal shock. What grinder are you using, or like what are you doing? Because like I do think this is a coffee that you need to rest for a fair bit of time. If it's the Manhattan roast, you can also push it pretty hard, but like I don't know. That's like there's like if you're not getting fruitiness from Letty, it feels like a skill issue. Do you agree with Say ideology that heavy processing obscures origins? Yes and no. And also, I don't really think that's necessarily like the exact Say ideology that exists nowadays. But I think processing is a very double-edged sword in terms of, at least in this industry, at least in specialty. So like I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but here's my do I even classify this as a hot take? But like basically I think my understanding of all this is that so like processing can elevate the quality of coffee. So like basically like I'm trying to how do I explain this? This is a very complex and large scale issue that exists in the specialty coffee industry. So so basically like you look at coffees like this, and a lot of these coffees score higher and they cost more money and so on and so forth because they have tapped into like, some form of processing. Or like, you look at like elevations, right? You're like, oh, there's a farm at like 2,000 meters above sea level versus like the farm at 1,000 meters above sea level. And like, The guy at 1,000 meters above sea level, if he taps into processing and like does all this stuff, he can elevate the quality of his coffee and elevate, like the inherent characteristics, and his coffee will score higher. And because the point scores of these coffees is, in my opinion, tied to a very westernized scoring system, now he's able to sell his coffee for literally more dollars. Which is like, I think what seems like a fair bit of the industry wants us to do is like, we want to pay producers more money because, like that is what we need to do, right? We need these poor farmers, we need to pay them more money. So why is it bad if a producer starts to tap into processing and, makes his coffee taste better, right? Well, so like, I forgot to add one more statement, but like, so that's a mentality that seems to exist. And then the second mentality that I seem to run into is we shouldn't, these producers should not be doing processing. They shouldn't be like, tossing their coffees in fruits or whatever, because like that's cheating, or like, they shouldn't be doing these things because like that ruins the inherent nature of their coffee. So it's kind of like a give or take scenario at times, where it's like you have one group of people saying, yes, we need to pay producers more money. But at the same time, it's like we shouldn't be paying them more money, or like we shouldn't be like, letting this behavior happen, which is like, oh, they're like processing the coffee in a certain way. So it's a very delicate question that I have, and honestly, like I don't know if this is like I don't operate at that level where like I'm not a green buyer, I don't see any of this stuff, but I just hear things, right? And like I don't know, I talk to industry people, and like I feel like there are two very vocal camps of like, we need to pay producers more money, and we also like, I don't like that these producers are tapping into all this type of processing. So it's very like complicated to talk about that. Because like, because like there is this big mentality of, we need to pay them more money. So then it's like, if the guy does something to make his coffee more valuable, why should we not like that? And I think that is like a very, very complex question. For me, like I am more on the side of, I think there's a place for all of this. And I guess like given looking at like what kind of coffees exist, I do feel like that's what the market feels as well, which is like people will buy co-fermented coffee, people will buy washed Panama Geisha, and like, I don't know. I'm like, is that bad? And it does seem like, the other thing too is like, why should we dislike these processed coffees? Like, I actually think these processed coffees serve an incredible function for the entire industry, which is to make coffee, first of all, like, quote unquote accessible, right? Oh, we want to make everything accessible, right? Is like, you hand wash Panama Geisha to a normal guy on the street versus a coffee that is co-fermented in fruits. I am 100% sure, well, maybe not 100, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people will like co-fermented processed coffee more than delicate Panama Geisha, which most people, if you don't have the palate developed for it, or you don't brew it correctly, or whatever, right, is going to taste like a weakly brewed tea. So, I'm going on this huge tangent here because I kind of am like getting thrown into all these, right? Like people always ask me, what is my viewpoint on processing? What is in like all these different things? And I'm like, I don't know anymore, because like, I'm like, is there an amicable solution for like all of this, right? And I have no idea. But I will say though that I operate on spectrums, like the opposite sides of the spectrum. I will drink coffee that is insanely clean, and I will also drink coffee that is crazily processed, because I think that's what maximizes your enjoyment of this hobby. It's like, you gotta like enjoy things, But yeah, catching up on chat, and it's like, you do have processing that does totally obscure the region, which is not necessarily bad. A good example of this is in China. There's like a million different processes now coming out of China, but you have like the P4 yeast fermented coffee coming out of China. That is a catamor that tastes 90% as similar as Lady Bermudez. And is that a bad thing, right? Is that actually bad that a produce, or is that good or bad? It's a great question to have, right? Is that like, that is processing that where they've taken this catamor that is, terrible tasting. If we were to put it on a Western, we put our Western flavor profile on and we take our Western scoring and we look at this catamor and we say this catamor is terrible. And it's no good. And then they put in processing. Now it's like doing really well and it's cheap, right? It's low cost coffee and people are buying more of that coffee. Producers getting more money, right? Is that bad? Right. And that's like a very delicate question. But I do think like some of that processing does really, really help. But other times, I do think there's a sentiment of, for example, you look at like a Gesha Village, you look at some of these Panama farms as well. It's like they're tapping into processing and people kind of get a little disappointed, right? They're like, oh man, they don't make them like they used to. Or it's like, I hope they don't, ruin this, like they don't stop making good wash coffee or there's only so much manpower or only so much stuff. So it's like, what if they don't, they use a part of it and do weird processing for it, right? It's like of those yields. So, it's very, very complicated. But yeah, this topic does warrant a very, a actual video. I just never know. It's like, if I publish these opinions, like, will people, you will rustle some jimmies. And even this, if somebody watches this VOD, they'll get their jimmies rustled. But yeah. I think the vast majority, so Julian of Coffee Reviews says, I think the vast majority of people are fine with experimental processing as long as the producers, as long as the producers are transparent with what they're doing. Yeah, sure. I think nerds care about that stuff, right? But I still think it still comes down to taste. At the end of the day, it's does this taste good or bad, right? Which is very subjective. But I do think experimental processing serves a very unique function in that it can expose people to what coffee can be. And I think that's what's great about co-fermented coffees and crazy anaerobic process coffees is these are things that you can hand to a normal person and they will be able to taste them. And also, you can brew these coffees at home and you can get, hit all these flavor notes on the bag without it, tasting quote unquote bad or oh, I didn't brew it right. I don't have a $4,000 grinder. My coffee's not gonna taste good, right? Things like that. So, yeah. But anyway, long tangent. I still have this natural Gesha to brew, but this SL34 is still, still tasting good. Still has there's actually a really interesting structure of acidity in this. But yeah, I only have 30 something bags of this coffee, so I do want it to go out to people who are genuinely interested in tasting Taiwan coffee. It was very, very expensive to get here, so that's why it's expensive. It is a fucking expensive coffee. But yeah. Yo, what's up, Alan? Yeah, no, Nathan. I feel like you can ask in the Discord or something. Someone will help you out. I think. Yeah, direct all the processing questions to Ferran. Speaking of Ferran, I gotta open one of his coffees on camera because I think it warrants it. But I think Aviary is going to be in my top 3 this year. Top 5. Ooh, is 3 too limited? Well, it is going to be in my top roasters, given that two of the coffees that I've tasted from him are fantastic. How similar is this coffee to the Asia Roasting Project coffees? So this is, we are doing the Asia Roasting Project thing, which is we take this, we're literally recreating this coffee, but here in the States. So it's the exact same green, exact same roast profile. It's just this is the actual bag of coffee from Mojo. So it's going to be pretty similar in the sense like there's going to be a lot of sweetness. It's going to be easy to taste, and but this one is actually really interesting in that there's a level of structure of acidity that some of our other coffees didn't have. And also, this is the first time we're doing Taiwan greens, but we already got most of this all set up. So, just needed to launch this into the world and see if people enjoy it. But at least the actual coffee, the actual green coffee, is fairly impressive for what it is. A lot of red fruit, a lot of really nice caramel sweetness. This is something about this roast profile from Mojo is like, I just think a lot of these, there's like a huge focus on sweetness. So like, I get this acidity presentation and, I get, it's like rounded and all of that, but there's this really long linger of sweetness. So that's what I'm experiencing now. It's great. The sweetness does kind of turn into that Taiwan terroir, which is that kind of like dried tea leaves or post-brewed tea leaf effect, which is what you would expect out of a lot of good processed Taiwan coffees. So I'm going to brew this natural geisha now. We also are going to feature this coffee probably next month, but yeah, also again, like, we don't have a lot of this coffee. It is expensive. All of these coffees, it's just like you're paying like $100 per kilogram just for the green, right? And that's like not even accounting for shipping, not accounting for any of the production costs. And it's like crazy. So we'll do this natural geisha now. This is probably going to be priced around the same price as well. And then after that, there's going to be some other coffees. I'm pretty excited for this. I've only had Taiwan geisha one time, and I think it was like a pretty processed geisha also. Well, I just like don't really remember it that much. But a natural geisha from Taiwan, very rare. I tried to buy Blue Bottle's natural geisha, Taiwan geisha, but it is hard to buy. Ooh, wow. It was also like $90 for the Blue Bottle Taiwan geisha I think was $90 for 100 grams. So it was very expensive. So that's how expensive Taiwan coffees are. It's like, it's just expensive. The yields are so low. Shipping it over here is also pretty much impossible. It's very difficult. I had a man on the inside, on the ground floor, who picked these coffees up for me, which is great. But yeah, this is geisha. Wow. Yeah, look. So this is, I don't know if you guys are be able to see this, but yeah, this is geisha. Taiwan geisha. Natural process. So it's, yeah. It smells, actually the aromatics on a lot of these coffees, like the whole bean aromatics, they don't really, they kind of have that like tea leaf smell to it. And that's also what transfers to the taste. But when you actually grind it and brew it, it definitely smells different. It smells a lot better than that. Current top 3 roasters. Current 3 roasters I actually... Well, okay, to be fair, I don't drink that much coffee. Okay, so, like, I drink... It's like, I haven't had enough of Aviary, but I want to say Aviary's in there. then let me grind this real quick and let's give it a smell. All right, natural geisha from Taiwan. Whoa. Okay, smells like natural, you know, like there's a little bit of that natural in there, but definitely floral. But at the end, there is that kind of Taiwan tea woody earthiness. Not earthy. I actually am not really thinking these Taiwan coffees are like that earthy, but it's like that dry tea leaf effect. It's quite interesting. And I do think this is a coffee that people will be able to appreciate. But we're launching this SL34 first, and then we will have the we'll have this geisha. But I have a feeling the SL34 is going to be cleaner. The SL34 is also decently clean for what it is. I mean, it is actually like very clean. That's why you taste, you know, clean processing. So you taste the terroir. Smells good. Smells very floral. Let's see what this smells like. That's where, okay, I'm smelling a bit of the natural. Did you guys get anyone selling the Elpasser Black Honey CM Wush Wush? I did. I think I tried that at the last Bay Area Coffee Meetup. I don't think I was a fan of it. It was too dank. Watching this stream at... What are you diluting your third wave water to? Are you diluting it at all? Because if that's just third wave water light and you're not diluting it and you're just doing straight distilled, I can see why it all tastes the same, because it's actually quite hard still. So, this honestly smells like brewed tea right now. There's a bit of, it's like brewed floral tea. So natural geisha, not, I mean, like aromatics, pretty good. Definitely, like now, I'm smelling a little bit more of that ferment. So I don't expect this coffee to be as clean as the honey, but I do expect it to be still decent. And I'm still doing that thing where I told you guys at the beginning of the stream, I was focusing on pushing for slightly faster flows. You know, sub 2 minute long brews or around like 2 minute brews. But I have the SL34. Got the SL34 and the natural geisha here. I have very high hopes for the geisha, but the SL34 has definitely impressed me, so I'm really happy that we're selling that coffee. There's only so much of it. The Gildardo Lopez to come in the mail. Yeah, that's probably good. I had Say's roast of it last year, and I thought it was pretty strong. All right, Taiwan natural geisha. Let's taste it. Let's hope it tastes good. Hope my brew is good. It's like that floral tea, but a lot of that like tea leaf, brewed tea leaf in here. And then I'm smelling a bit of that kind of ferment that you get, or like, the natural process. Yeah, they say like stone fruit. Okay. Yeah. Aha. Let me see, flip it this way. I ordered Lacasona from AG because you said it was Pog. Also, the Sea Jelly Gesha. How long should I rest it? You should rest it for probably 45 days at the minimum. Like, I have some AG here. It's like finally starting to open up. It was roasted on the 24th of February. Yeah. I usually... I might make an actual video on resting coffee, or like a little easy discussion video, because I did talk about it on a stream before, and I have the spreadsheet, the greatest spreadsheet, where I told you guys where I opened up some of these at. But yeah, I probably wouldn't touch it for at least 4 weeks. Like, minimum 4 weeks. Even at 4 weeks, a lot of Apollon's Gold, or Apollon's Gold, AG, it's just like, you could tell there's more to give. So, 45 days is actually a legitimate recommendation. Although, if you do want to open up your AG earlier, like, 4 weeks in, which is crazy when you think about it, like, that's an early time to open up a coffee. Grind it and let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then begin brewing. All right, natural Gesha. Let's give it a taste now. Now that it's cooled off. This is very different than the SL34. A lot of tea in this. It's like tea. SL34 has much more structured acidity, like red fruit, a lot of red fruit. This one, this natural Gesha, more like a grape or a stone fruit of some sort. But there's much more florality. But it's like florality into that Taiwan terroir, which is like that tea leaf effect. I think it's sweeter. I think this Gesha. I think the SL34 is more interesting. This is more of like the Western side of me speaking, which is like this has that structure acidity. It's got that long linger sweetness. And I know I'm not rinsing my cup, but whatever. This natural Gesha. Much more like purple fruit world. Still really, really sweet. But there has been a bit of a boost of florality. So instead of it being like caramel sweetness on my tongue, it's more of like a flower. I mean, it's a Gesha. Just want to say thank you so much for the resting stream. Been enjoying a lot of stuff. Much more opening at 3 weeks or like 2 weeks. Yeah, right. So the idea is you open it at least a week. I guess I should make a video about this, but like, you open up these coffees about like a week in advance, or like 3 to at least, a few days before than what you would normally open it at. So you can eventually catch the peak as these coffees peak. Although I will say that most of the roasters that are roasting this light are roasting coffees on roasters like the Loring, or they're roasting on, maybe not even roaster matters here as much, although yes and no. It's more of like these roasts seem to stabilize for a bit of time. So like if you catch it up here, it's like, you know, sure, it's going to taste like, maybe I should use this angle. So if you catch it like rising, right? Maybe the coffee's going to taste like 80, 85, 80% as good. Like you could tell, oh, this needs to rest more. But if you catch it as it peaks, I think your enjoyment is a little bit better. Because it's kind of like a roller coaster. Like it's kind of like this. So if you catch the coffee while it's up here, then I think the taste is going to be like the best out of it. However, with some of the ultralights, you find that the flavor really stabilizes for a very long period of time before it starts, staling or declining. It's just that with these ultralight coffees, I do think that even sometimes you find out that they even peak, they like rise up even more, which is like weird as the longer you rest. So it's a very weird world. I'm talking to Pepe directly about buying a 20-pound bundle of Sidra Oxidator washed geisha, and then the geisha and albacore and goodbye will be about roasted by Pepe. Sure. If you I think if you Nathan, are you in the Discord? If you're in the Discord, we can coordinate a group buy because that's where we did the Waffo group buy. So if you're still, I think if you type !Discord, it should work. Let me do that. I'm trying to like I need to delete some public links because we keep getting some like trolls in the, or not trolls, but like, you know, some bots in the some OnlyFans bots in the Discord. But join here, and you know, we could probably do a group buy with you. I'm opening mostly 2 weeks off roast, but leave some for 3. I'm getting a chest freezer, or like like the freezers open up like this. So I'm gonna try to put it under this table here. So kind of like been redoing a lot of what this room looks like. And I'm gonna try to freeze more coffee. But usually, like I only freeze like the crazy good coffees. So like I freeze like basically it's like if I really like it, I'm generally just gonna consume it all. But if I really want to, like if it's very expensive coffee, I do like to freeze it just in case. So but I think that's all. 34 is more towards my preference, but I think the natural geisha, which we will release in April or towards the end of April, middle or that time period, it's much more interesting. Like this is a very interesting coffee to drink. This is more like a clean, structured coffee. It's definitely been a treat to taste both of these coffees side by side. I mean, very, very rare to have Taiwan coffee in the States and be able to actually like taste 2 Taiwan coffees next to each other. I do have some other unique coffees. You guys will see. I have some very unique coffees coming soon, so we'll do more live streams on that. I think I'll probably do. Let me see. I can brew 1 aeropress if that is of interest to you all, and then I will wrap up. Because I do want to show off the aeropress technology somewhere. Although I posted I think a YouTube short the other day, but yeah, I just really was just very excited about these types of coffees, right? And it was really fun to collab with Tanya here. Anybody picking up coffees from her, it's great to support a small business. And if you want to support my small business, pick these guys up. No, but it like to me, there's something internal, or I'm like, oh man, I really want to put coffees, Taiwan coffee out there in the States. It's very, very rare stuff. And I want to be one of the literal handful of people putting it out there. Okay, how would you describe... Okay, Alan's like, how would you describe the descriptor structured? Like when you say structured acidity. So usually it's like the acidity will just exist there, and there'll be like a very strong lingering of acidity. So it's like say I take a sip of something, like, oh, here's acidity, and it's like here, and here, or and that's like in a brewing context. In something like when you cup, I definitely think it's like after the coffee is cooled for like 20 minutes, and if you taste it and you still find that there is acidity and brightness in there and it hasn't been muddied over, that's usually when you also, like, I'll say, oh, that's got like a really structured acidity to it. So I might as well finish up, or I'll wrap up the stream by brewing some, we'll brew some structured acidity aeropress. So give me a sec to set that up. So a few things you'll need for this is, I could actually lift the table up and I could have stood this entire time, but I felt like sitting down. Okay, maybe we can stand because it'll be easier to do this. Let's see if this works. Look at this. Look at this technology. Look at the technology we have now. It is a liftable desk. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately we only ship in the continental US for now. But, yeah, this is a tragedy. It's like, we could figure out Canada shipping. It's just like hella expensive, It's like that is something that I could make you guys pay for, but I don't. It's kind of a pain when I guess if you're spending $60 on a bag of coffee, right? If you're spending $50 or $60 on a bag of coffee, and then you have to spend another $20, right? Is that like the end of the world? I don't know. Okay, so all of the pour overs that I did today were 5.8 on the O1. So I'm moving like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm moving about like 100 micron. Is that? Oh my god! Yeah, like 100 microns finer. So I'm at I like to do aeropress on the O1 at 4.5. And apparently they came out with a new aeropress flow restrictor valve. Use tragic, man. I'm like on old technology now. So I got the flow restrictor, or the flow control cap. You also could use the Prismo, but I've stopped using the Prismo because I don't like the metal screen. Or I don't like for how I'm brewing aeropress with the paper filter, having a metal screen doesn't do anything. Like this doesn't. Although I will say that I think you can grind finer on this. Like this seems to flow a little. Like at the same grind size, this seems to have less resistance than this. But yeah, I stopped using this because I don't care about, like this is great if you don't want to use filters, but I'm using paper filters and I don't want to deal with another step when cleaning up. So yeah, I got the flow control cap here, AP filter, and I have this boiling, but basically I'm doing kind of like a modified version of Say's aeropress recipe. Which to me is superior to how I like the coffees tasting, because I do think that a lot of the brewing methodology that I'm trying to figure out which coffee to brew. I have too many bags of Say. This is such a good coffee. But I feel like I should brew something else because I've already brewed so much of it. I have the decaf. Let's brew this one. This was a very interesting coffee. So this was I think a field blend. but it is the F6 Field Blend. One of these cards. I'm looking for my cards. Here it is. This was a pretty fun coffee. Here, F6. I don't know if you guys can see this, but yeah, this tiny garden of a single hectare sits at over 2,000 meters above sea level and grows an exciting strain of variety Colombia called F6. In the cup, we find raspberry, lemon verbena, and oxidized oolong. So this was a pretty fun coffee that came in the sub. I cannot believe that they had the Peru Gesha in the sub like that. But anyway, this is the basic recipe. So I like to preheat aeropress, and also I'm using these crafts here. So this is the let me move this guy up here. This is the the indestructible craft that everybody uses nowadays. But I preheat my aeropress, and the dose that I use is 14 grams. So I'm pouring 14 to 240. So if you divide that, it should be basically 17.1. So 14 to 240 works really well for a lot of different coffees. A lot of like your any coffee you need to actually push, this recipe should work. But a big reason why I've switched to this recipe is that if you look really far back and you look at how I used to brew aeropress, is like I do long steep and I go in there and I take a cupping spoon and I like agitate everything. I think that creates a very harmonious cup, but it also is then incredibly coffee dependent, because like a lot of coffees just will taste terrible at these incredibly high, like super high extraction yields. And second of all, high extraction to me does not taste that interesting. At times, I take that back. It depends on how that high extraction is achieved. High extraction immersion to me is not very interesting nowadays. But also with most of these brewing methods, initial saturation or like initial agitation, like, think about your turbo bloom espressos or your high agitation V60s. A lot of that boosts up upfront acidity. So I don't know, the kind of thought process was like, oh, why don't I just do the same thing, but for aeropress? But while still retaining, what aeropress should taste like, or what high extract aeropress should taste like. So that was kind of my thought process. So basically I was like, okay, how do I accomplish this? Because I don't have a tone touch brewer at home. And I looked at what I had and I was like, okay, this kettle is great, but this kettle's too slow. This kettle, I think, only pours 14 or 15 mils per second. And I was like, okay, I need to, throw this away. It's no good. We need to go to the Chad no restrictor kettle, which is the Brewista kettle. And that lets me dump in 25 to 30 mils per second in the first 10 seconds. So the basic recipe is, I should have preheated this while I waited. The basic recipe is 14 grams to 270, and you have boiling water, and you dump all this boil. Like, look how fast I can pour this in. So you want to be able to dump all that water in, and do that in a very short period of time, and that will get you that most upfront acidity. However, at least with this recipe, I still long steep. So in order for me to reach the high extraction yields, I long steep. So even though it is a more harmonious brew because it's a 1:17 ratio, long like this, instead of it being ultra balanced with low agitation or some spoon agitation, it is high extraction with apparent upfront acidity. And you can grind very, very fine for this because you have a flow control cap and you have the power of being able to actually, push down on this. I got 2 bags of pink bourbon this month from Say in my subscription. Yeah, a lot of PBs, a lot of really good pink bourbons. But yeah, I like to preheat my aeropress. You know, God. But yeah, a big advantage of this. Oh, I actually will use a different paper filter. Is a big advantage of this is I can just take out filters like that and knock out the pucks without running into any like kind of weirdness because the screen gets stuck or some coffee grounds get stuck behind the screen. Even though I do think that probably provides a slightly cleaner cup, it's not worth it to me. So I stopped using Prismo once the aeropress came out with the flow control cap. And also, the flow seems to be a little better on this design. It seems to flow a little faster, a little nicer. Okay, all right. I've delayed this too long, but yeah, I got this in here. 14 grams in the aeropress. This F6 smells really nice. And then, give it a little shake. So a big reason why you do 14 grams is because you can only fit so much in the aeropress. So, doing something like 14 to 240 and pouring very, very fast, this makes it so like you won't get as much overflow. So, go. I actually poured a little too much, 250, but that was 7 seconds, 248 mils per second. So it does take a little bit of practice to learn how to pour everything in very, very fast. But because you do the crazy kettle agitation, like look at this. Your fines actually kind of like, I think they all float to the top or what, or like, there's like some amount of logic behind this. I'm not awake right now I need to eat some food. Otherwise I would be able to explain this a little bit better. But yeah, that initial dumping of water that at that rate seems to just push up that acidity to the front, which is exactly what I like, because that is exactly how I brew something like V60. Although, because I'm steeping for 5 minutes, it still does taste like that long steep, sweet, blendier aeropress flavor profile. But that first part boosts up that initial perception of acidity. So I think this is a little stronger than just like doing, just dumping in the water and like, making sure that you like agitate it every single often. Because I do think that kind of muddies it reduces the dynamics in the cup for me. Extreme. Oh my god, I'm looking at the Discord. Okay, never mind, Nathan. You joined Discord. Sick. But yeah, you just let this sit, and it's just extracting, and you can. I don't know if. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't have this lens. Is not a zoom lens, so you can't really see this. But I'm gonna try to move this in. Let's see if you guys can. Let's see if I can bring you guys closer. I don't know if that actually does anything. Sort of. I have a zoom function in the camera. But yeah, if you actually go and like look at the puck when you push it out, you'll see the fines because of that crazy agitation. All the fines kind of are up here, so they're not really like touching the water, which is good, right? That's like what you want, right? You want like less time with the less like bad stuff touching the water. The other thing too is something very similar. You can accomplish, you know, if you want to like play with the fine suspension, you dump in all the hot water first, and then you dump your grounds in, and then you can kind of like go from there. But this does most of what I like. This gets me close enough without me having to like do a lot of stuff. Right, the steps are very very minimal with this. And you should cover the AeroPress for maximum temperature stability. But yeah, and then basically here you just stick it in. You can push down and you push down slow, or you can grind even finer and hope the resistance is kind of counteracts things. But yeah, generally speaking, this is a really strong recipe for me. Easy. 22 to 26% extraction yield, depending on coffee grinder and how long you let things steep for. But I like to steep for 5 minutes nowadays because I think even of the crazy coffees, like, you know, the really light roasted stuff, after 5 minutes you can run into like big astringency world. Like I see people steeping for 10 minutes and I'm like, I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, as you see, look at that. That is immersion. Look how dark that is. Look at the cloudiness. So there you go. That's the immersion technology right there. But yeah, I do like this style a lot now. Or I've been drinking more of it because I'm like, it's kind of actually nice to taste like, you know, dynamics in like a bigger, higher TDS brew that isn't espresso. But this was a pretty good coffee, and it was very unique. F6. I'm actually looking to make a tabletop press style brewer using a friend's 3D printer. We'll have some interesting party tricks compared to the Aero. Cool, let me know. Would be happy to check it out. But there you go. Very clean, very bigger extraction. Very sweet. So a lot of that sweetness, like a lot of that long steep AeroPress immersion taste, like they all kind of characteristically finish the same way, but this here is like a little bit of that pushed up acidity, and then the rest of it tastes like really, you know, nice, forgiving, long steep AeroPress. And with some of these coffees, like, you could just maintain everything the same. All you do is you just change the steeping time. So if you feel like a coffee needs to have more strength to it, or, you know, you need to extract higher, you should go and steep it longer. Although I like 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is a real, I think there's just like, maybe not diminishing returns, but a higher chance of failure after 5 minutes, where you steep too long, you get a lot of astringency, coffee can't handle it, the coffee grinder you're using is going to start tasting muddy, you extract too high, right, so on and so forth for a lot of these coffees. But for a lot of the cleaner wash coffees, a lot of the coffees I want dynamics that I know the roasting style and green can handle this type of brewing, this is the recipe that I use. So to reiterate, if anybody actually goes this far back into or this deep into the VOD, it is 14 grams to 240, boiling, pour everything in as fast as possible, and use the manual kettle agitation, especially from a kettle that does not have a flow restrictor, to do most of the job for you. And you don't need to faff around with like tools or swirling or anything, and just, cap off the aeropress at the top or put something to cover things up. And then plunge pretty slowly, but just make sure you plunge at a constant rate. I think like filtration of an aeropress, I just don't really brew this aeropress that much because it doesn't give me the level of flavor clarity that pour over gives me. Cleanup is still not the strongest on something like an aeropress. Actually, let me show you the puck here. So this is the advantage of if you do high. So you can push this through. Don't fall on the ground. Capacity in an aeropress is also an issue. But yeah, I'm gonna diagnose my puck here. So yep, see, so all the fines get catched in the filter. And yeah, even. Looks good. So yeah, this is really hot. And then this part should be really muddy, so if I flick here. Yeah. So it's like you're very reliable. So this is like the aeropress technology that I use nowadays. All right. Oh, shoot. Did you message me on Instagram? I feel like, okay, I'll have to dig through the DMs. Because a lot of stuff does get lost nowadays. I'm finding out that my Instagram account has, a lot of blocking on things. Or I guess, Instagram filters things out. So maybe they're oh, they thought it was, a spam account or something. I'll look in my messages. Yeah, I haven't made espresso in a long time. And the reason is, even with something like V60 or, most recently I've been messing around with this guy, the S-Works Dripper, a lot, is, there's a level of flavor clarity that you can get out of a V60 and a lot of these pour-over drippers that taste really great. I'll have to check my Instagram. I stopped liking a lot of the low agitation stuff. Okay, I'll take a look. Pulsar and all that, I like it, but it is that searingly clear, lower dynamics in my opinion than something like a V60. And it's not as fun or interesting for me to drink that type of coffee anymore. Even though I know a lot of people like it, right? A lot of people like harmonious, clear flavor definition. But to me, it's not as, I don't know, it's not as fun to drink that type of brewing style. So, I've switched over to this crazier agitation, kettle agitation, physical agitation, and a lot of that helps bring in dynamics, right? And that's just because I think about a lot of these wash coffees, right? I think about a lot of these types of coffees, and I'm these have a lot of dynamics in them. You should do something to, boost the dynamics, which is brew it in a way that that does that. Hi, looking forward to the stream. Yeah, we'll stream some extra stuff later on, but yeah. Anyway, I just want to show this stuff off today. Is like, Indian coffee is on the come up. Taiwan coffee is on the come up. If you want to get Taiwan coffee and you're in the United States, rare, you can pick up the coffee I just released on Asia Roasting Project. I tasted it and I'm like, wow, this is actually really amazing. So, I'm hoping people pick this up. We only have 32 bags of it left. That's not a lot. But they're going to come in these tiny 4-ounce bags because this coffee was freaking expensive. But yeah, I definitely would, play around with manual agitation like that in a V60. I think it's a lot of fun. Like, go in there, mess around with the bed, see what that does to bring in, like, acidity or, like, extract more acidity. I think it's fun. Experiment with it. It's there's definitely no, like, I mean, there probably is an actual scientific explanation for why this stuff works, but, in practice, if you try it out and you go and manually agitate, it will taste different than just pure kettle agitation because of how the bed gets saturated. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. But you can go and hang out in the Discord. We all have like random things. I don't know. People are on the Discord now a lot, which is great. But I'm gonna basically delete all these public links to the Discord. So if you want to join the Discord, you gotta join it through the live stream. That is how it works. But yeah, otherwise, that's all for tonight. I wanted to hang out, show you guys some cool coffee, show you guys one aeropress brew. Maybe we'll do more aeropress at another time because I know everybody keeps asking me for aeropress. It's like kind of a running joke. Okay, so yeah, I'll see you guys around. Thanks for spending the time. Goodbye.